Alright, hello. Peter Huvesall here. I'm going to review about maybe 50 different titles, movies, and shows. I don't know if I'm going to do this all in one video. So, as I usually do when I'm reviewing films, I do have the background music here, Spotify. Right now, listening to Oyo Como Va by Santana. Old but good one. Alright, first up is Chief of War. I'm just gonna pull up some details here in case I forget. But yeah, Chief of War, I enjoyed it because I am sort of a Pacific Islander, at least half Filipino, Asian, I guess. But so I do have some at least visually, aesthetically, it's nice to see this type of history brought to life in this way. I think the show is probably the best I've seen when it comes to dramatizing ancient Hawaiian culture, and I do like the representation of women in this show. I like how they're fighting alongside men. They're throwing spears, they're getting impaled alongside their men. Especially in the first episode, I was really surprised to see women fighting just as physically as the men are. Even though it is still a very patriarchal society. So it's take how you like. I'm not saying I love this society, but it's nice to see it portrayed the way it is with such realism and obviously high production values and a lot of work from the actors who are portraying these characters. And you followed mainly people from family members of the dynasties. It's in a way kind of like Game of Thrones. Some minor characters are in there that aren't part of these Hawaiian families, but mainly they're there as a vantage point for us, the viewers, to kind of relate to and as an observer, of the events that happen in the series. What else can I say about it? My favorite part about this show is when the main lead, Jason Momoa, a bit of a spoiler here, so watch out, but not too much. He goes to Europe, and then he comes back to his tribe in Hawaii, and he tries very hard not to bring the pessimism and cynicism and sort of negativity that he sort of inherited from visiting Europe. It's kind of a because the stuff he saw in Europe in this brief part of the show really sort of traumatized him. Anyway, what else can I say about the show? It's good. You should check it out. The final episode has weird, faulty CGI compared to the rest of the show. I mean, there are some scenes in the show that do require CGI, and for the most part, the effects are really well. But then in the final battle, another spoiler, sorry, in the last episode, it kind of falls flat. Don't know why. Okay, next up, Superman 2025. It's fine. I like it. I actually watched it twice, so I guess I do solidly like this film. It's my favorite Superman film, probably by far. I just love the casual inclusion of different supernatural elements, very sci-fi heavy concepts that are just casually integrated into the story. Zack Snyder's universe of the DCU was fine. I guess I didn't mind it, but I like this one better, probably just because it's a more optimistic Superman film, a bit more humanity driven when it comes to motivations and intentions, and kind of seeing where everyone comes from. Even the villain, who's portrayed, of course, in a very sort of bad light, as he is the villain antagonist of the film, but I kind of understood where this person came from a bit more. What else can I say? It's just it's fun, it's funny, a lot more humor in it, as you can expect from a James Gunn production, and I do like the inclusion of pop songs, as James Gunn does, to have in the background of very elaborate, sometimes action scenes, which does happen here. So I recommend that one. I'm probably gonna recommend all these films I've seen. Alright, third, No Other Land. This is a documentary. I think it might have been in the foreign film category or best documentary in the 2025 Oscars. I forget. I do not know. I've been meaning to watch it for a long time, and finally, with someone who also want to watch it, I was finally motivated to watch it, and I really did enjoy it. It is sort of a journey, and this is just a film about this Palestinian documenting with his cell phone life under Israeli occupation. It's really just that. It's simple. But it's a very sort of it's consistent from beginning to end, as in like that's all that it is. There's no like added drama or like other people's footage or perspectives. It's really just from this one Palestinian, and that's what makes it really immersive. And it helps me kind of like as an observer of what's happening to Palestine a bit more thoughtful, because this is like a slow moving film that takes its time to help the viewers understand the perspective of the person holding the phone. And it doesn't happen just one day. The timeline of this film extends like maybe years. I think the person the filmmaker who made this film, who owns this phone, he's been documenting it for years. So this is definitely like years in the making, and it's nice that it's finally out. In the film, of course, you see him confronting different types of Israelis, different types, even friendly ones. Like one of his best friends who is more sympathetic to his cause. You see his interactions with him and his views on the conflict and all that. So it's good. Like I see why it's a great documentary, and I think it is because it's also really timely. It's not even like just to be political. It's just to like to be aware of like getting some more genuine, authentic perspectives about like things that are kind of talked about or that are significantly impact culture and all that. Okay, next up, Raising the Bar, the Alma Richards story. This is a movie I would never watch unless someone recommended it to me, and I did, and I enjoyed it. Can't believe I did. Surprise! It's not my lane when it comes to movies, but it's decent. It's about a high jumper, an Olympic high jumper. I forget what state he's from in the U.S. It's a sports biopic. It's basically about his life story going up into from childhood, how he ended up high jumping in the Olympics. And to me, the most kind of fascinating part of this film is that it's a Mormon production. Like this guy, I guess, came from a Mormon background, the central character. I'm not really a religious person. I mean, I am in my own ways, but not like in a traditional sense. So I thought like there would be some Mormon like propaganda, but no, it's just a Mormon production. Yes, a lot of culture in the film is Mormon, but like it's still a very accessible film for anyone. I enjoyed it. I liked it more than I thought. It definitely has that sort of whimsical, schmaltzy feel of like older like 1950s or 60s feel and like feel good, stories. That aren't really life or death, because this is just a guy who's into sports, and he is because of natural talent, sometimes luck, he does eventually make his way to and he does go has some interesting hurdles along the way, none that I can really relate to, but I found it an entertaining story, easy to follow, easy to watch, and I think it's like an hour and a half. You like that feel-good sports biopic and you got that American spirit in you, you're gonna like this one. It's alright. Alright, next up, I'm gonna skip that one. Oh, this one, Game Change. Game Change is an old one. This one came out in 2012. It's about basically Sarah Palin and how she responded to her bid to be the vice president, a potential presidential nominee, McCain, and the film focuses on her sort of like psychology during that whole time. When she's put into the national public spotlight. And it's a really good film in terms of putting yourself in her shoes. Like what it's like to all of a sudden have all this judgment and pressure on you, and what it does to you and how you react to it. And I think it's a really good film because of that. It makes it accessible for us, the viewers, to whether you like her or don't like her. It's a good film that even like when she interacts with the characters here, McCain and her campaign manager, like how they sort of manipulate her, or how they don't want her to do too much but don't do too little. Like, and that was a tightrope, and it's a pretty good drama, more of a psychological thriller at times. Like I was saying, you're going what this Sarah Palin character is going through. So it's good for that. If you like somewhat, not really like political intrigue, but like we got biopic of like even like recent politicians, right? Not like the more regurgitated like older American politicians that we kind of bring up and talk about all the time and like dramatize, like Lincoln, I don't know, Adams or whatever, but like modern, newer ones. I like to see more of those. You know, I'm 34. I'm sure most people who watch films now, or at least think about them somewhat thoughtfully, are like my age or a little bit older, younger. I don't know. All right. Next up, let's go to Frankenstein. This is the new Guillermo del Toro film that came out last year. I'm not really familiar with the Frankenstein story. I just know that, yeah, the scientist makes a monster out of nothing. I guess it is from dead bodies or body parts. That's how it was in this film. This is a long film, but I don't think it really bothered me. Yeah, some parts of it felt like a little slow. Um, my experience with Guillermo del Toro's other films is that he does like to put details and really fill out the world. So, but in that sense, really, I love this film for that. Like, if I was gonna watch a movie about Frankenstein, it would be this, because there's a big part of the film where it switches perspectives and you see how like the Frankenstein monster sees the world, and the camera is like through his perspective, and that's really refreshing. And all these little details I never even thought about with what a Frankenstein story would be. I know it is based off a novel, and I know it's not a perfect adaptation, but I was just kind of blown away by like how detailed this Frankenstein story was. And it's a little too glossy, but that's kind of like Guillermo del Toro's kind of thing. Like even if his stories have like gothic like architecture or broken, ruined like settings, especially like Victorian style, I don't know, stuff, like, I don't know. But it looks a little too glossy, but cinematography wise, but that's not too big a deal. That's fine. But that's a good one. Check it out. All right, I want to talk about Him. Him is a movie that came out last year. This is a wild film. I don't even know how to talk about it, but I'm going to attempt to talk about it. So a young football player from high school gets recruited by his sort of idol, this other football player who's a professional. And this professional is sort of aging out, and he's kind of looking for a younger prodigy to sort of like take over, I guess. Not like, you know, as who's going to be the new sort of like football star. I'm guessing in the context of the story, like just nationally, I don't know, or something like that. The new big name, you know, the new idol, football idol. So the recruit goes to this recruiter's sort of facility where this guy lives, where he trains people, and it's sort of a brutal, harsh, almost like sadistic culture there, the way they train upcoming football players, and it becomes so kind of brutal that it becomes sort of surreal, and the film almost feels like it's going into like fantasy territory, because some of the things that happen, at least before it goes in that territory, like it's very cruel what they do to people, to their psychology, to their body, to make them like the ideal football star. And because of that kind of turn into like, oh, we're really going hard into that concept, it turns into like an artsy independent film type of vibe, which I don't mind. Like, I like this film, like, but I don't love it. I see it as a ambitious but worthy attempt at like talking about this subject matter, which is, I guess, the extreme sort of cruelty that may or may not be happening with football players and the way they're trained and what they go through in order to like be famous or whatever. You know, you can do stories like this like in Hollywood, like for actors or even singers. You know, I've seen biopics and stories about, you know, people obviously in the entertainment industry who go through like hurdles, or I mean through the industry itself. Like, it's not this, you know, happy, like, you know, lightweight industry. It's brutal. You gotta do a lot of work. You gotta do a lot of things you don't want to do. But this one does it for like football, and then, but it's crazy though. So if none of that interests you, don't watch this, because this is like, I think, for a niche like audience. I liked it, but you know, it's just me. Next up, The Captive. Oh, I didn't even change the background here. I'm supposed to be like showing pictures of like, you know, what I'm watching. All right, The Captive. Ryan Reynolds, starring this one. This is a Canadian production. So it's about how his daughter is kidnapped. That's how the movie starts, and then him and his wife, Canadian authorities, and also the kidnappers themselves try to outwit each other. But the story, of course, is about Ryan Reynolds' character, the father, trying to find his daughter, along with his wife. And this is a great, unique movie when it comes to kidnappings because there are a lot of motivations and intentions between like those three parties: the law enforcement, the party who lost the child, and the kidnappers themselves. Like those three parties, like this film kind of really doesn't make anyone perfectly good or perfectly bad, but it really humanizes everyone. It really explains why they're doing what they're doing. Of course, kidnappings are bad. I'm not saying I'm humanizing the kidnappers and what they did was good. I'm saying I understand why they kind of did it, as cruel as it is. And even the people who like consume content online from people who are kidnapped, like the different sort of rationales behind like how do I say this? I okay, I'll try to go into it. This film takes place like in the span of like a decade. Like this is like the timeline in this film is long because the kidnapping is like when the girl is young, like a girl, and then she's a young woman by the end, and so she's been manipulated for 10 years by her kidnapper, kind of like I think the term's like Stockholm syndrome or something like that. So she becomes weary of reuniting with her parents. Like it's just insane. Like I can't imagine being a parent, like looking for your daughter, and then you finally see her first meeting, and like she's like, oh, you're fine, but I don't really need you. Like, wow, that's crazy. So that's the type of movie this is. I don't know if there are other movies. There are other movies, similar movies like this, but so Canadian production. I just want to say I definitely felt the Canadian vibe in this, and I liked it. I really did. I don't know if it's the way Canadian humor or the way they talk, or if the dialogue in this film is like more standard with Canadian like sort of speaking culture than it is like a U.S. American English speaking culture. I don't know. This is a good film. I just like the thinking about kidnappings in a more thoughtful, enlightening way, because it is a thriller, but it's also a slow burn in a lot of parts. Like you really spend time with the law enforcement officers, why it seems like they're not helping the father, why it seems like they are, the daughter, why is she seemingly neutral about the whole thing this whole time, and the kidnappers, how they try to keep the daughter there, whether by force or just by manipulation. Yeah, that was a ride. So if this is already 30 minutes and I'm going to end it for now. Oh, we're 18 minutes. We're gonna keep going. All right, next film is going to be. All right, Good Morning Vietnam is an old movie. Robin Williams. Of all the Robin Williams films I've seen, I think I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Probably Mrs. Doubtfire might be my favorite one. These are movies I've seen growing up because my parents, especially my father, is into the cinema from his generation. But like. That's fine. So I never saw this one, so I finally saw it, and I liked it more than I thought. I think it was more immersive into the culture and sort of what I want to say, the confusion and the sort of instability of the Vietnam War in Vietnam for the Vietnamese and for the, well, I would say more so for the Americans. Because the Vietnamese, even though they were under occupation, like, if you want to call it that, they did kind of have systems set in place, like, for their sort of rebel factions against the U.S. They had systems in place to entertain the American soldiers. And this movie is about, this guy, Robin Williams, who plays, I don't know who he plays, I always forget the characters' names. And he's a comedian, and the military wants him to, like, entertain the American soldiers in Vietnam in the mornings with, his humor. And his humor offends, like, some military higher-ups in Vietnam. He befriends most of the military because they find him relatable, and so the character kind of tries to come off as a good guy, a bit ignorant, going into this like a politically hostile sort of climate in terms of communication between like the U.S. and Vietnam, and inevitably he does make ties with different people, and those ties get deeper and deeper, and he starts to question his allegiance. Like, what is he really doing there? Is it worth it? Is he doing good? You know, so but it is still sort of feel good American, like pro American film for the most part. In the end, not a good or bad thing. I'm just these are things I didn't really think about with the film going in, and now I'm thinking about them going out. Yeah, it's a decent one. So here Google labels it as a war comedy film, and yeah, like that's how I would call it. There are intense sequences of war in this film, but there are also like very humorous scenes as well. You know, um, if you're into like yeah old war movies and you like Robin Williams, yeah, check it out. All right, next up, Primitive War. Okay, Primitive War is, I think, my favorite. One of my favorite. Like it's up there. It's in the top like two or three like dinosaur movies. This one came out yeah last year, July 25th, 2025. This is like a B movie version of maybe like Jurassic World Rebirth, the Jurassic Park movie that came out last year, which I enjoyed too to an extent. Um, but this one definitely knows what it is, like sort of a B version of those movies, but the effects are not that bad, and the sort of contact and interactions with the dinosaurs I would say are a lot more realistic in some ways in this one, and the way the dinosaurs look are a bit more accurate I think than they are in the Jurassic World films, and the interactions with the dinosaurs in Primitive War are like more frequent, and some of the scenes are kind of more outlandish. Like this is, if you're looking for like a Jurassic Park type of movie in the way like you want to see these interactions with dinosaurs, you want to see a lot of them, and you want to see a lot of conflicts with humans and dinosaurs, this one does it to like a much higher degree than the Jurassic Park movies do. And kind of shamelessly, and I think it knows it, and I just like the sort of the creativity. In some ways, the really simple but obviously intense interactions with dinosaurs that the humans in this movie engage with. And there are just so many dinosaurs in this movie, a lot. And there's a lot of action in it. And again, some of it is like over the top, probably more so than the more over the top sequences in the Jurassic World movies. But I liked it. Like this is kind of like what I want out of a Jurassic Park movie, but probably with a better budget, better story, more diversity in the characters. But I mean, Primitive War was better than I thought. I liked it. All right, moving on to Lilly. Okay, so Lilly is I might be a bit more serious here because I want to give its quick history lesson here. Wait, Lilly film from 2025. All right, it's a drama about equal pay activist Lilly Ledbetter, starring Patricia Clarkson, which had a limited theatrical release, not important. All right, tells the true story of fighting gender discrimination at Goodyear, a company, a story that gained national attention and led to the Fair Pay Act. So this film came out in 2025, and the actual story of this was like in the late 79, like late 70s. So I think stories like this are important and relevant, especially for younger people who probably don't know American history as much as they should. Like even Fair Pay, like the Fair Pay Act, that came out in the 80s. That was just like 40 plus years ago, right? Like we're still a young nation, and a lot of like the sort of progress we made socially, a lot of that is just recent. Like probably like I'm 34 right now, born in 91, so like even like 10 years ago, like this story was taking place. There was no fair pay, like, and gender discrimination was like, because the character here worked in Goodyear in the tire sort of company, right, as like a normal manual laborer, and then I think she did end up going up to like a more like higher up position with more responsibility, but she didn't get paid as much as the men, like by a lot. And this movie shows the sort of law, like court scenes related to that. It shows who supports her, who doesn't. When it comes to a movie itself, it's kind of dry. I'm not gonna lie. And this is similar to another great historical movie I'll bring up later. But you know, this one, I wish it was a bit more engaging. But that's kind of like a picky, slight criticism. Um, Definitely watch this if you're in the mood to like. If you're in, it's kind of feel good, like a feel good story, like that has a happy ending. That, and if you know history, you know that it would. Like she does get the fair, like the Fair Pay Act does eventually come about because of her. Um, like I recommend it. You know, as a more of like a serious but like well-made drama about important history. Can we take a break? We're at 25 minutes? Not yet. I'll stop at 30. Okay, moving on to Train Dreams. Alright, Train Dreams is like the title says, it's a very sort of like dreamlike movie in terms of cinematography. This is a beautiful looking film. There's sometimes I just want to go out in nature and hike. Boom. Take a hike. Yeah, just get lost in like the more natural beauty of the world. And this movie, man, I haven't seen a movie go into that. Like, I've seen documentaries that look like this movie, but like when it comes to actual mainstream movies, like just dramas with characters and plots, I have not. And even historically, this is a pretty good film. I have not seen a film about the railroad workers in the U.S., especially on the West Coast. This movie is about a logger. He cuts like a lumberjack. Sorry, that's the word. And he gets jobs sometimes working on the railroads. And you see him meet the people he meets, how he meets his wife. So it's a really simple story on the surface. This lumberjack is kind of lonely, drifting through these jobs that aren't really difficult to get. It seems like it's one of those jobs where you just kind of like show up, and if they need you, they'll take you. And he's really good at it because I guess he's done this type of work for a long time. And then he finds a woman to settle down with, and then they build a cabin, and he leaves like every so often, and then comes back with money from his work logging and working at the railroad. Yeah, that sounds pretty boring, but you know, if you love nature, that's it. But my point is, like, the way this film is shot, the focus on like aesthetically on just nature. I don't know how to say it, so I'm gonna stop talking about it because I don't think I'm doing this film justice. If you look it up, like people will say, like, yeah, watching this is an experience, and it's mainly just because of the cinematography within like the wilderness that's presented in this film. Like, I love this film. I recommend maybe once, but it does seem like it's for a niche audience. It's not for everyone. But if any of that sounds interesting, yeah, you should definitely check it out. Always looking at the time. All right, I think we can do 2 minutes for House of Dynamite. So this is a Catherine Bigelow film. Catherine Bigelow made Hurt Locker. She made Zero Dark 30, and this is a slightly different one of hers. It's the same thing. Like, she likes making films that kind of puts you in the shoes of military personnel, and not to criticize the military, but like just to sort of see their rationales, their tensions and motivations for what they do. And House of Dynamite is about a hypothetical scenario in the U.S. where an impending nuclear war actually seems like it's actually going to happen. These are fears that I guess are rising. I don't really fear that, but I guess a lot of people do, that nuclear war is going to come. So what would happen in the U.S.? In film, you get perspectives from people in working in military positions of power, the president, and the friends and families of those, and see like who they warn, who they protect, where their kind of priority is in terms of like warning people, or even the systems in place that are supposed to protect us from incoming missiles, and when those fail. So it's kind of good in a realistic way. It's a fine film, not great, but it's all right. Yeah, like if you like, this is definitely like a political intrigue. Oh, that's confusing. I'm not gonna put all those mirrored cameras up there. Hold on. Okay, put that up there. Yeah, if you like films about hypothetical but real world scenarios, especially when it comes to modern issues like nuclear warfare concerns or paranoia, yeah, check it out. All right, I'm gonna take a break for now. We'll continue in a bit.